Hello, folks. How are we all doing? It's nice to be back on that Sunday show, on the usual time here for Lads and a Dream Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Andrew Stewart, and I'm back with my regularly scheduled partners on the show. It's good to see you again. Firstly, Calvin, good to have you back, mate. How are you?
Not too bad at all. Busy day up Perth, then back down. God, freezing again.
I'll throw it to my other guest, as always, Cheryl. It's great to have you on. How are you?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm all right. I'm still trying to work out what I made of this afternoon, so it's nice to be on and kind of unpick it with you guys as well, and nice to be back with Calvin too.
Yes, folks. As I said, great to be back on discussing a Rangers win as well. Oof, so I stick a lottery on. Must be a blue moon outside. I'm just having a quick check. Um, we'll just get into it. We'll try not to be like Rangers, a slow start. We'll not get caught off guard, but we'll get into the show as discussed. It'll be mostly talking about today's game. There'll be some extra stuff that the guys will be talking about tomorrow on the flagship. Just before I get into the game, we'll just thank our sponsors. You can see them on the bottom of your screen: Rhino Express, Cliveview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions, CST Air Conditioning, Black Rooster, and Art of Gold. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Right, let's dive into it, shall we? We'll start with what we always do. Let's talk about the squad. And there was some interesting movement in the squad today. I'll just pull it up on my phone so we can go through it all. So, Rangers, Jack Butland in goal, no surprises. Didn't have the armband today. James Tavernier comes back into the squad. John Suter, Robin Proper, Jeff Day, Raskin, Barron, Yanis Hadji, Nadim Bajrami, Vaslav Cherny, and Hamza Igaman keeps his spot. Start with you, Calvin. Obviously, captain can be fantastic, can be tragic. Comes back into the squad. It's been a while. He's been, don't want to say exiled, but he's certainly not featured in a while. Was that a surprise to you, especially after Thursday night?
Well, I think it was made pretty clear to the manager that Sterling's picked up another injury, a problem that he's had for a while. They said it was like a nerve issue, and he's going to have to go for surgery. So in that sense, it's kind of taking out the manager's hands. But at the same time, I don't think it was Tav's worst game that he's had this season. I thought he was pretty decent for the majority of it. Didn't really make any mistakes, and he was pretty much involved in the goal that we thought he scored it when we were at the game. So what he said, not really. It's expected when you don't have the options. That's the two other right backs in the squad. Both now have injuries. Obviously, Cachewiros went back to Feyenoord during the week there, which another sad one, happened to be international duty, bit of a freak injury, but it's left us with Tav and he needs to step up again.
I see that obviously, as you've mentioned, the options lacking, but I was more leaning on the fact that there's been games where, I'm not saying he's a prolific goal scorer from open play, but not bringing on the captain, especially maybe at Dundee United, where we were searching for a goal, or even given his noted pedigree with crosses, he didn't get brought on. I was thinking there was maybe a wee bit more, but obviously put to bed as he came back in. Had a pretty decent performance in my opinion. And we'll talk about the man up top again. Cheryl, Thursday night was a stellar performance from Hamza. He kept his spot ahead of Cyril and obviously Danny being on the bench. I was happy to see that. I was expecting them maybe not to get that, to be honest. I thought they would be tragically going back to our number nine, but I'm surprised, but I'm not angry that he kept Hamza in by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I wasn't surprised. I suppose it's difficult with Clement because you can sometimes really, you can't guess what he's going to do. There's a few decisions that he's made that have had us all scratching our heads. I was happy that he kept Igaman in. I did think that we were not going to see a similar performance from him that we did on Thursday. He's young, he's raw, he's still got an awful lot to learn, but I think this will have done his confidence a bit of good just keeping that starting place and giving him more opportunities as well. I thought he did all right without being spectacular. I thought he contributed a bit, but I didn't expect them to be anywhere near the level of performance that we seen on Thursday. But for that, I thought he did all right.
Another big name, and that's just obviously in the world of football. Yanis Hadji, he came back into the squad. Someone I have a lot of time for, and it's funny saying that given how how little he has played over the time he's been at the club. But I was very happy to see him. I think he gives us something different in that position. He was drifting all across the place. He was good on the ball. I have missed him quite a lot, Calvin. I was happy to see him back in today because with Europe being the way it is and him not being in the squad, he was never going to feature, obviously. But getting him straight back in today in a 90 minutes for him, I think could be crucial.
Yep, so I don't think anybody was unhappy to see Hadji in the team. We've been crying out for it quite a bit to get him back in. He's a player that offers you that killer pass, and I think the biggest thing is he tries the killer pass. Like too many times this year, you get into a good position and the ball just gets drifted out to the side or knocked back, whereas he's taking that wee chance to drift it through the middle, which then gives you a chance of getting a bit more shots on goal. Still not great because he's still trying to get up to speed. But he's a player that's done everything he can, even when he was out of the team. Not many players drop down to the B team and go play with the younger players as an international, and he was happy to do it all the way through pre-season and the start of the season as well. And you've seen it, he tried it a few times today. It was cut out quite a few, but at least somebody was given that chance to zip the ball through, try and cause a wee bit of problems for the defence, rather than just drift out wide and hit an aimless ball in.
I think as we'll get into it, we'll discuss, the game as a whole. I think obviously the key thing in the early stages was that we didn't particularly start brilliantly. I think that was quite frustrating for a number of reasons, especially after the way we played on Thursday night. Granted, completely different game as we know, going from Europe to Scotland. But from after that, it was really I wasn't worried about conceding as much, which is a good sign. Some games it does feel like we look fragile even when we're on the ball. I said this after the game, Cheryl. At worst, I felt like today could have been a 0-0. I don't think St Johnstone offered enough to really, keep me worried anytime they had the ball. Whereas in previous games, it felt like maybe one pass could cut us open and we'd be in trouble. I didn't see that much from the opposition today, and it's hard because it feels like you're weighing up that are we just doing better defensively or were Sir Johnson just that poor? But as a positive person, I'm willing to give the backline a wee bit of credit today.
Yeah, and I would agree with you as well, Andy. I think they did look more solid. I was a wee bit surprised. I thought that Balogun might start ahead of Cropper, although Cropper did all right on Thursday. I thought he looked pretty solid, but I wondered if Clement would bring Balogun back in. But I thought that they looked, in general, they looked pretty solid at the back. I think Puter, I'm going to skip to the end, probably would have been my man of the match. A couple of brain farts from Proper, and obviously he picked up that injury as well. But I don't think we looked threatened at the back, and I think a wee bit of credit to St Johnstone. They started pretty well, and they actually did. We weren't playing against 11 men behind the ball. They did try and play football as well. So, no, I think, I'm going to pick up on one of the comments there from William. We were just really, really slow, and I know that Shona touched upon it in our group chat as well. It's just that need to take so many touches, isn't it? There's no urgency. And we were in control from about 15 minutes onwards. And yeah, I agree with Calvin as well. It was good to see Hadji in that 10 role, trying to play the ball a wee bit. We've missed that natural number 10. And it was actually, I think, at times a case of everybody trying to keep up with Hadji, because he's brilliant in that role, but not having the players around him that are able to kind of meet him when he's playing those balls. It's difficult because what I will say is I think if you compare it to last Saturday, how we all felt this time last week, I think we controlled the game more. And that's me, like you, trying to be a wee bit more positive, Andy. Again, we have this thing of shooting ourselves in the foot and losing that stupid goal, but I didn't feel that at any point today. I'm aware, we've just been so dire on the road that I think we're trying to search for positives here, and there was some in the sense that we did from 15 minutes onwards, we certainly looked more in control than we maybe did against Dundee United last weekend or in previous away games as well.
Calvin, obviously it's hard to, as we said, compare Thursday to the Sunday in the league, because it is two competitions, two separate competitions. There's two different styles of play that are involved. I think Nice, granted, don't think they covered themselves in glory and gave us a lot to work with in an attacking sense. Um, Kind of throwing that all away to then go back to playing your bread and butter in the league. I thought personally, and I know it can be, I don't know what it's, blue tinted specs, I suppose. I thought we were maybe unlucky to go in on 0-0. I think it was a couple of nice passing plays. I think, as you said, it's just that slowness to make the kind of killer pass, or to land the big shot. Almost, I don't want to use boxing terminology, but you know what? I'm thinking of particularly I thought Tav was a wee bit higher up the park, so his decision making, his crosses, he's playing the ball in the box was a wee bit more useful instead of the deep cross. I think of the Bajrami one where it gets cut back to him and he's just fluffed it. That's a very good position to be in. Obviously, not taking that chance. So, as I said, I've tried to be positive. I think we were maybe unfortunate not to be ahead at half time, which I think, if we were, would have been a big confidence boost, because as the stats don't lie, we're not brilliant on the road this season. And after Thursday, if we could have had that lead at half time, I think, even though I don't think we're in any trouble, it would taken a lot more of the kind of uneasiness from the whole sort of feeling of the game off of our shoulders. And even in that sense, I don't think we really struggled with that, to be honest.
Yeah, like you said, the first half, sorry saying we could be disappointed not to go in front, but I still don't think we created very many great chances. Like the Bajrami one, just cannoned off him, to be honest. Couple of good deliveries in for Yefte, same for Tav. The only shot that I can really remember that caused any danger was Cherny's, that didn't even hit the target. So is that something that we need to talk about a bit more? Because in the sense that we're dominating the game, but it reminds me of like Arsenal a few years ago. Like they dominated games, but they didn't score goals. They weren't creating chances. That's where we're in right now. We've got technically a better team than the players, but we're not ruthless enough. Like we're constantly just drifting the ball side to side. Possession-based football is what Clement wants to call it, but it's all right having possession if you're not creating clear-cut chances. Like that's the biggest problem in that team. They're having the ball, but really not being very aggressive at getting anything through.
Yeah, I think by no means just one game where we managed to win, clear everything that's happened in the season. We've still got a lot to work on. That's one of these things I will say. Obviously, I come across as happy and everything's great in the world of Rangers. That's not true at all. We still have a lot of work to do, and by no means is the manager out of the kind of danger zone yet. I think obviously today was definitely a must win for him. Every game will be for him now. He said it himself. There's no more goodwill with the support, but I think it was the end of the game. Sky commentary saying 3 points, a very important 3 points. We're aware that's not what we exactly pay for. We like to see 3 points in a nice flowing style of play, something to enjoy watching for the 90 minutes. But if you told me at half time, then we had the 3 points, I would have taken it, Sheryl. I think we're just trying to keep getting to the bell, it feels like. Again, boxing terminology. We're just trying to get to the next game and the game after that. I think obviously that's just the way our season's been, where with this manager and the position he's in, it's just a game at a time. Face who's in front of you and try and get 3 points.
Yeah, but I think it's one of the things we discussed in the Q&A a few weeks ago, Andy. All of these 1-0s, do you know, they do end up playing a part. They do end up, you don't have that cushion. You're more susceptible to mistakes at the back, causing a goal and dropping points. So, yep, it was a decent enough 1-0 win. It was as decent as I guess a 1-0 win could be. We weren't troubled at the back. We were solid in the middle, but we just lacked that killer instinct up front. And even starting with Igaman, which I touched on earlier, yep, he was great on Thursday, but there was very little chance that he was going to come in and score 2 or 3 today. It's just another option. We've seen with Dessers when he came on Thursday, just how poor that chance he was at missed. He must be bang out of confidence as well. So we have that other option, and Igaman and Danilo came on as well, but up front we just look really, really poor, and we are going to have to go from game to game as well. But to watch on Thursday, it is so frustrating because I think we said this time last week, we didn't think Nice would actually be a problem. We were fairly confident we could go over there and get a result. But after Thursday, after the that performance, did anybody expect a good result today? Or, sorry, more importantly, did anybody expect a good performance today? Absolutely not. No chance.
We'll talk about the goal we scored then. Technically, I say we scored, if you count Jason Holt as a Rangers alumni from his tenure in the past. Yanis Hadji floats the ball towards the back post, and for a second I was worried that Taff had scored and was going to hit us with a celebration and try and make us eat our own words about what we've said about him this season, because he tells us he's having a pretty decent season from his assessment of himself. But no, ex-Ranger Jason Holt, he had nothing else he could really do, Calvin, there, to be fair. It's just that the danger area, the keeper's not covered himself in much glory, and the ball's ended up in the net. A goal that wasn't a collector's item, but the ball's gone over the line, and we've got a 1 on our side of the scoreboard, so you take it.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to say you take it. But once again, you're going back to the ball gets put into a dangerous place. Like, how many times this year have we not got the ball in there? As I said, we're drifting too many passes, and that ball was hit effectively across. Happened a few times the first half. There was one where Yefte plays it across, and it just got in front of the defender, just got in front of Fortavas at the back post again. We will make a wee bit of repeat of that and pop him back up in there, but that's what we seem to miss. It's the killer instinct for us. That seems to be the biggest issue. At the back, we're pretty decent. I think Suter's looking very good right now, and probably he was our most effective passer today. Like, every pass was bang on the money, and that's saying a lot. It's your centre half that's doing that. Like, we need that coming for Bajrami. You need it for Hadji now. Cherny's maybe a slightly different player. He needs to get shots off quicker. Things like that. Barron and Raskin, they need to be a bit more involved in the attacking front as well. Like, Barron takes up a lot of good positions, presses, but they need to start getting some shots off at the goal. If they start getting some shots off, it then opens up the space for our strikers to get involved a lot more. And I think that's the problem. Everybody knows that we'll just drift the ball wide. We'll drift the ball back into the middle. It just needs to be a bit quicker, a bit more, like, just a bit of purpose. I think that's the biggest problem. Like, a lot of our play doesn't have purpose. And does that come down to the coaching team? Does that come down to players putting their stamp on it? Because once again, we rely on just one moment to get us through it.
Yeah, I think as IFC's put in, we'll rely on individual pieces of quality that want to win us every game. Yeah, as I say, it's a proper fair assessment of, I think, the Bajrami moment of brilliance at Pittodrie. Granted, we never went on to get 3 points, but that was a game I didn't see us scoring until he comes up with a nice bit of skill and a finish. I think that's the key example I can bring to my head, is that I don't think we were going to score that game until he did that.
What, 1-0 this year, isn't it? So
yeah. I think he said something like Rangers win when we score first, and it is what it is. But it's very obvious when you say that statement and you go, well, if we don't score first, we don't win, because it relies on us not just scoring once but scoring twice at least, and that's a rarity this season.
Can I ask your thoughts on the VAR penalty, guys? What was your thoughts on that? Because the first time in real play, I didn't pick it up actually during the game. And the first couple of replays that I showed you, I thought, oh, no, there's not a chance. But there was actually one angle that it looked like it might have been a wee bit of hand to ball.
Yeah, I tried to think of a nice way of going about saying, we've not had a penalty this season in the league, without sounding like I'm bringing up conspiracies and moonhowling or whatever you want to call it. I didn't notice it at all watching it at live speed. But I don't know how far you're leaning into clear and obvious mistake from the referee's part, in which VAR would refer him to have a look. It's using the word, or using VAR as a whole, is bringing a massive grey area into the conversation in itself. So it would have been interesting whether if they'd asked the ref to have a look at it, Stephen McLean if he would have then maybe changed his mind. But clear and obvious, I don't know if they would have been brought up for why they asked for a referral in the first place. But I think it's probably a bigger debate if we didn't get the 3 points, to be fair. But I think because we did that, I'm not too. It's not at the top of my comments list. We'll say. Calvin, are you any different on that? Do you have a different take on the whole penalty situation there?
Well, at the game, we didn't even notice that there was a potential one when they made the announcement over the tannoy about what's happened there. It was quite a discreet one. Like seen the replay jumped on Twitter at half time, seen the replay. And we've seen the replay, you were like, if it's your team, you want it, but if it's against you, you find it very harsh. So it's one of those ones, it's a borderline decision. Listen, if we didn't get the 3 points, I'd be shouting my head off for it, to be honest, but it's one of those ones, it could go either way. You've seen them giving, you've seen them not giving, so as I said, it's not really, wasn't clear and obvious, like you said.
We could do a whole other hour-long podcast on VAR and how it's used, but I'd dread to think of how that show would go down. Let's have a wee discussion. Obviously, we'd mentioned Hamza, but also seeing Danny coming back into the squad again. Sheryl, he falls into that same category with Giannis, where he's not in the European squad. Had a good game when he came on against Dundee United, I'd say. I think him and Danilo were probably our bright sparks in that game. I think Czerny you could probably throw in as well. He seems to be a shoo-in to be the bright spark in any game we play at the moment. But Danny back in, kind of working in tandem with Hamza, and we've seen his link-up play again with Vlaslav and Giannis being useful as well. I think we're used to seeing the ball pumped up the park and Stereo trying to bring it down, but I was enjoying some of the more intricate passing plays between them, and I think that's something that only Danny can really give you. I don't think I try to say nicely things about Stereo, treading very lightly on the words I use. I don't think he has the capacity for those intricate passing plays. So,
No.
yeah, I think it's another avenue in which our attack can go down, and for me, having that is definitely very useful for us, especially when we are so dry of goals at the moment.
Yeah. Listen, the fact that we have so many 1-0 wins would say to you that, come on, give two up front a shot. Two up front of Danilo and Egaman. Surely against Kilmarnock is worth a shout. We're really struggling for goals. We are creating chances, but there's nobody putting them away. So surely we could move to that two up front. I don't think for a second that he'll do it, but I find it very strange when we are struggling so badly to score that he won't consider changing that, because it's not working for us, regardless of, certainly domestically, regardless of who that one up front is, we're not getting more than a goal a game. So we need to change it, we need to look at it, and surely that would make sense for that game at home on Wednesday.
Calvin, I'll bring you in this one because it's like trying to think of a way of saying it. When you're not scoring goals, if you have another striker there, chuck two up top, it seems like, the obvious kind of choice. If one striker's not getting you a goal, chuck another one and see if that boosts your chances, surely. But we seem very, very far away from making that a permanent move and going with the two striker system. Regardless of what else the shape is behind that, we just don't seem to have the mental capacity to even consider it, which for a manager to at least not kind of theorise how it could look, I think that's quite shocking, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I think you need to consider is personnel. Like, we have one fit winger in the team, apart from McCausland, but as we know, because he's not a superstar, he'll put in a shift. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we've got the issue right now, is that's why Bijrami's playing out wide. You're a big fan of Matondo, Andy. Like, when players like that are fit, it makes a difference and gives you a chance to potentially swap things around. But I think right now, the injuries that we've got, again, things like that, they play a wee bit apart. Was it Beale tried to play a diamond for a while at one point as well, and we were terrible. It's one of the hardest formations to play. it gives you a lot of space out width, and that's kind of what most Scottish teams will try and do. They'll get wide and hump the ball in the box. So if we had the personnel, you could look at it, but the way we're looking right now, it's probably tough to switch to it. You'd be putting Hadji out wide left, Bajan would probably stay left anyway. But does it make it a more attacking formation when you don't have the players to play it? I don't really know. But given that, it gives you a bit more threat up front at the same time. It's just how you would get up front. Are you going to get the ball wide? We're going to play through the middle. You need to consider those things. I think that things about switching to a 4-4-2. I like the 4-4-2, but we need to have the right personnel for it. And right now, injury-wise, we probably don't.
Injury-wise and a lack of personnel. I feel like we've had this whole story play out before. It feels like it was relatively
Last
recently
3
as well.
seasons, potentially.
Yeah, you know, I'm just trying to think of how long this maybe has been going on for. Um,
It's never the players you want to get injured, they get injured as well.
Kieran Dell always seems to be fit, and that's one of the worrying
Always
things.
fit.
Yep. Yeah, it's a shame. 3 points, you know, as you said, it slightly closes the gap to second place. It's not worth celebrating, obviously. And I think obviously Aberdeen drop points again. We go to we go home and play Kilmarnock in our next game. We talked about this a while ago. I'll throw it to you, Cheryl. Obviously, the manager was relatively famous for his comments about pushing the can down the road, and you'll see the best out of our players in October, November. December 1st, and we're sitting third in the table with some big games to play ahead of us this month. If there were a time for us to hit that form, which he said we would maybe see last month, it would be this month and definitely starting on Wednesday night.
Absolutely, but I can't see it if he continues with the personnel and the formation that he's persevered with thus far. I just can't see where that change is going to come from. I would absolutely keep Hadji, keep him in the squad. I think he looked good today, gave us options. But I just, to be fair, did he decide whether it was October, November 24 or 25? Maybe had he said 25, that would have been more realistic. I just can't see it. I suppose today, if I'm desperately searching for positives, I think towards the middle, at the end of the second half, it was St Johnstone that looked a wee bit leggy. We looked slightly fitter. I don't know if you guys agree with me, then we certainly did. I think I made that point last week that we were the ones that looked like we'd been stuck on a bus for about 4 or 5 hours in comparison to Dundee United. So I thought we looked slightly fitter today, especially off the back of playing on Thursday. I heard again, I didn't hear the whole thing, but I heard a bit about his comments about having to play those 3 games. That's not changing. You know, that quick turnaround of having to play so many games. We're not the only club in that position, and that's not going to change. And I know we have injuries, but, you know, we should have the personnel to be able to deal with that. So I don't know where this sudden change to be in this team that he's promised us October, November time, unless it's next October, November, is going to come from.
So, as I
Big
said,
thing I felt was like after the match. Just like after the match, he came out and said he was happy with performance. They're building a culture. If that culture's playing pretty poor football, he's certainly right, because it wasn't great. It really wasn't great. And I think, but hopefully behind closed doors, he's been a bit more realistic, and he's just saying that is to keep the face there. But if that's what we've got to look forward to, we're in for a rough ride to the end of the season. So I think there needs to be a bit of realism for his part as well.
Yeah, did he say something about data, Calvin? I missed it, but what I did hear made me think, what? He said something about our data. What was it?
The XG wasn't very good, and that's the biggest data to look at, but it wasn't even one. So that says a lot. When you're dominating the ball and you're getting XG with less than 1, it's, for him, he said it was a good performance. Second half was a bit more bright, but same again. Danilo had that chance toward the end that he probably thought he fouled the defender, but he's hit it straight at the keeper. A couple of shots hit wide, but their keeper wasn't up too much. Bar the one shot, was it from Danilo for the edge? Where he's made a good save, but I said Butland didn't have much to do, and neither did Ray for them. So it might be all right playing nice wee passes, but it's not effective in a lot of sense.
Oh yeah, sorry, somebody, thank you to the person that's just brought that up in the comments. The physical data is it's better now than it ever was.
I mean, it's data.
I think how it's sprinting more in the
data in football, again, that's if you're adding to the list of shows you could do. You've had VAR tonight. We've had a small discussion about you could do a whole series on VAR. Data in football you could do a whole series on. But looking at the stats, so I've got it down as 17 shots to 4 in favour of Rangers and 10 shots on target to 1. If those are the stats and it's 3-0 final score, that looks pretty decent. But when it's 1-0, and you take into account that one was an own goal, it does make you worry about, taking these opportunities. 10 shots on target, but as Calvin said, we weren't really troubling Ray too much. My football app has him down as their man of the match, but I think of, as you said, Calvin, Danny's shot after he thinks he's fouled the defender. Don't want to single him out to say he was horrible, but Tav's free kick wasn't his standard where he puts it in the corner. I think it was a nice camera save from Ray. But it's that we're clinical. We're not. We're just not at the minute, and I think we kind of just seen in group chats. You see, they play some and staunch points. I'm sorry, I'll lose staunch points. When they score goals, they make it look good. We score goals, it's either a rarity or B, an own goal at the minute. So I think that's if you want to compare the two sides, if that's the way you measure this gap, that's one of the key ones for me, Sheryl, is that we, as a whole, you can say we don't play nice looking football, but we don't score many good, well worked goals or, take easy chances. It's always scrappy stuff, and that's an issue. But is it going to be a case of we're just going to have to deal with this until potentially January if it is these strikers don't work? Kind of that's your conclusion to that debate, that it's just the strikers' problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's our priority, or one of our priorities. But I would say our main priority in January is to look at getting somebody else for up front. I don't know if you send Dessers out on loan. I don't know what would happen to be able to facilitate us bringing in somebody else. But I think that is our number one priority for January, that we get somebody in, even on a loan, get somebody in up front, because that's where we have our problems, or the bulk of our problems anyway. I don't know about you guys. Would you send Dessers out on loan? What would have to happen for us to be able to bring somebody else in?
Probably find his wage will be very high. It could be the issue. Like, you look at the Dessers, was it 4 million? So you're probably talking 25 up. Danilo, he was 6 million, so he's probably 25 up. So you'd be trying to find the right move for him if you're going to do it. I like Danilo. I think if we can get him fit, I think he'll score goals. One of the biggest things, I think, with Igaman, and if you've got Danilo, I think Dessers struggles up front by himself because he's asked to do a lot of running that's not his style. If you're a lone striker, you need to work for the team, and it's probably the difference with a few other teams. And like, they've got strikers that will work for you, and if you've got the running stats that Clement wants to talk about, that's where he's probably sprints have came from, because Igaman's done more than Dessers. That's what you need to look at. If we're playing one up front, you need to be very fast on the break. You need to get right in people's faces. That's what we're looking at. And it's if you're going to get rid of some strikers, you're going to need to find good moves, or you're going to eat up a lot of the wage yourself. And that's probably where we're going to struggle.
Yeah, it's a striker that guarantees you goals is that comes in and solves your season is really cheap. And when you're looking in the bargain bin, the way we kind of have to be in January, where no club will want to shift someone who could be a game winner, as a striker.
And the one we're linked to doesn't seem to be scoring goals this year.
Yeah, as you said there, it's one thing getting somebody in, but also getting the player that we don't want out. I've listened to somebody saying it's harder sometimes to sell players and bring in players, and I think we have seen that this year with the amount of players we shifted out and for how little we got in response for some of them. But again, if we're clocking up these transfers, that whole situation, there's another hour-long show you could do. And with Rangers, you could double it because we seem to be crazy. I'll just say crazy. There's no other way. We don't follow the norm when it comes to our transfer activity. But as I said, so we'll go back to this game as a whole. 3 points takes us into Wednesday. Looking at the game as a whole, I think you were quick to mention John Souttar as your man of the match, Cheryl. I think we were having a laugh about this the other night, me and my dad, talking about the sellable assets within the club and saying Nico Raskin's coming back in there as a player that would be nice in this player trading model. But funnily enough, John Souttar seems to be a player that's his stock is getting higher and higher as the weeks go on. It seems, especially with these international games, he's getting a lot of praise for that. I think today some of his passing, in terms of the long ball diagonals, to Jeffy, there was a few early on where he was finding was Jeffy, and he would then be driving forward in itself. I think you're not far off with John. What was your kind of how do you see him in compared to as you said, Robin Proper and Leon Balogun? I've been quick to mention Balogun as being probably our strongest centre back in the last few weeks, which was worrying. But I think John is going in the right direction.
First of all, what a depressing conversation that must have been. Available assets that currently play for Rangers. A quick and very depressing conversation that must have been, Andy.
Yep.
I think he's done very well. He started the season quite well, and then he took a wee dip. Talking about, and changing it slightly, talking about players that might be quite happy to leave if rumours that are kind of sort of taking place now. Proper, that it maybe hasn't worked out for him. I don't doubt that there's maybe a player in there somewhere, but he's not a great fit for us domestically. He looked fairly good in Europe on Thursday, but I wonder if he's maybe somebody that they might look to move on. Maybe he would be quite happy to move on in January time.
He's interviewed during the week, said a wee bit about it. He's like, I felt underestimated Scottish football, the pace, the physicality. It's one of the things you need to deal with as a defender in Scotland. You need to be big, you need to be physical, you need to be strong, you need to be quick on the floor. And the weird thing is, I seen something earlier, he didn't miss a game in 3 years. He's went off injured 4 times for us. Is that a mentality thing? Probably the physicality of the Scottish game might be a different feel than Holland. Pitches aren't as good, but still, we've gone for 0 injuries in 3 years to leaving the park 4 times. For me, that's not my mentality thing. The day he knew it wasn't a good game from, maybe he just went off.
Mm-hmm.
The Dutch Andy Webster. That's probably as cruel as I can be to him. I think John is up there, but it's going to be very wildly received. I thought Tav was probably really good. That's his best performance I've seen in a blue shirt for a while. That's probably my pick, maybe Giannis. It was hard to say we had that. You think of man of the match, you think of someone that's grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck. He's done really well. He's contributed for the whole 90 minutes. I think we're struggling to pick man of the matches for every game because we don't have a 90-minute performance in any of us. We have 10 minutes here, 15 there, and nothing in between. I don't envy people that have to pick these kind of final says on man of the matches. But Calvin, who would have got your pick today?
I was between Souttar and Hadji. Souttar for me was probably our best player. He was very good against that striker who was lightning quick. The way he hit up ground was very, very fast. I thought Souttar handled him very well. His passing out for the back was good. He looked confident, assured. Didn't really do anything wrong. You could go Hadji because he created that goal. But saying spells was kind of drifting in and out of the game as you'd expect for a player that's been out for so long. I thought it was Souttar for me.
I've just seen somebody saying that. Jason Holt is man of the match for Rangers today. I think that's probably
It's nice
kind of summarised. Yeah, I think just that as a whole may summarise the last 40 minutes of the evening that we've spent discussing the match today. But we roll on to the next game. This season is long and unforgiving at times, it has to be said. But if you're interested in enjoying, or no, I wouldn't say enjoying, enduring Rangers, then be sure to check in tomorrow as the flagship show comes back as they discuss all things Rangers. I feel sorry for them. But until next time, I think that'll wrap us up for the evening. I would like to thank my guests as always, and happy to see them back on. Firstly, Cheryl, thank you for coming on again tonight.
Thank you for having me. And I will be on the gantry on Wednesday
Yes.
with Shona. So I'll do my best to try and push for that too up front and see how we get on.
Yes, letting you two loose at a press conference. If Rangers don't do well, then they can have a lot to deal with at full time. And last but not least, Calvin, good to see you again, buddy. Thank you for coming on this evening.
Not a problem, mate. Always a pleasure.
Just a wee one before we go, as I said earlier, and thank you to the sponsors. You'll see them on the bottom of the screen. Rhino Express, Clyde Joiner, Athol Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning, Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for spending your evening with me and the gang as we get through another 90 minutes of Rangers football. Keep your eye on the channel for more if you want to enjoy that. You're in it for the long haul because we all are as well. But until next time, thank you very much for joining this evening. Have a good evening.
Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clyde Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited and CSD Air Conditioning, along with Art of Gold. Thank you for listening or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.